for military intervention in Nigeria. What have we done? What offense have Nigeria committed? What is the crime? And why is the US President Donald Trump so vile in his position against Nigeria? What exactly have we done wrong to deserve the planned bombing of Nigeria to save Christians? Because this is what the Americans are saying. Remember, about a month ago, the US Senator Ted Cruz put forward a proposal in Congress calling for a sanctioning of Nigeria based on the Magnitsky Act, designating Nigeria as a country of concern because of what they believe is certain individuals or groups targeting other groups or individuals in Nigeria. And in this case, President Trump is interested in saving Christians. He wants to save Christians in Nigeria. And he believes and truly believes that all the Muslims in Nigeria are teaming up to wipe out all the Christians in Nigeria. Therefore, America would come to Nigeria to save all the Christians. So there are different ways to look at it. Whether it's happening by religion or ethnicity or race, this Magnitsky Act would apply. So the US wants to intervene on the basis of that to say, look, Christians have been indiscriminately targeted, genocided in Nigeria. There's an attempt to wipe out the Christians in Nigeria, according to President Trump, and replace them with Muslims. This is what the US president said. So he has sanctioned Nigeria. And on top of that, he's saying that the Pentagon should prepare a plan for some sort of military actions or intervention or invasion in Nigeria. I'll say that one more time. President Trump is saying that the US Congress should follow through with passing a law and that the Pentagon should prepare for military intervention in Nigeria to bomb Nigeria in order to save Christians. This has been going on for quite a bit. The insecurity situation in Nigeria is not new. How long will this continue? Well, I agree. The security situation is a problem. How do we bring this to an end? The security situation in Nigeria is alarming. Indiscriminately, it's targeting Muslims, Christians, atheists, non-believers, African traditional worshippers. Everybody in Nigeria is facing the same thing, particularly if you go to the part of the country that they're talking about, which is the northern part of the country. Now, if you go to the northern part of Nigeria, there is a concentration of Muslim population in that area. And Nigeria, again, to break it down, Nigeria operates under two legal frameworks. You have the criminal code in the south and you have the penal code in the north. The culture in the north is different from that of the south. There's a significant population living in the south of Nigeria, a significant Christian population living in the north of Nigeria. But the Christians are predominantly based in the south. So it's on this basis that we're having these persecutions in some pockets within the northern states. For instance, the issue happening in southern Kaduna between Christians and Muslims. If you go back to the history, the Metasine crisis I think it was in the 80s or the 90s, and then which happened, I think, in Kano State. And then in southern Kaduna, you have the issue with the Zango Kataf crisis, I think in 92 or 93, where what led to it was the market squabble. But this has also been, decades or centuries old long animosity between the Hausa population that mostly came from the northern part of Kaduna and moved to the southern parts. Okay, I need to get my light on. Welcome to Nigeria, guys. We'll continue this podcast in a second. I need to get my light back on. Welcome to Nigeria, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Nigeria. Yes, don't go nowhere. Welcome to Nigeria, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. Yes, this is Nigeria. Tell me you are in Nigeria without telling me. This is how they say it, right? Tell me you are in Nigeria without telling me. Anyways, I'm back. uh, I hope it's fine now. I don't know. So to cut the long story short, President Trump and his people truly believe that there's an attempt to genocide the Christians in Nigeria, and this is why they have decided to take action. So, like I was telling you, the situation in Kaduna State, where you have the Hausa people that have moved into the southern part of Kaduna, where you have the native population are mostly people of Kataf, Beju, and all the other African tribes that are living there. So the Hausas and the Fulanis came to live with them about 100 and something years ago, and have been migrating to that part of Kaduna State. Now, you need to remember that the British played a role as well in lumping up these two entities together, the northern part of Nigeria and the southern part of Nigeria. Now, the north is predominantly Muslim, and the south is predominantly Christian. But that is not even the point. You also need to understand that Islam came through the northern part of Nigeria, and the time period that we can point out, which was very significant, is the Fulani Reformation, or what they call the Jihad of 1804, that was led by Uthman Dan Fodio. So when Uthman Dan Fodio came, he cancelled or abrogated the 14 Hausa independent kingdoms and brought about the caliphate or the emirate system. So you have the emirate, the caliphate of Sokoto, and I have another one which was led by Bello, his cousin. And then you have the one in Sokoto. And so basically he finished the Hausa traditional systems there and brought about the caliphate system, or the emirate system, basically in the northern part of Nigeria. Also upon that, when the British came, the British saw that in the northern part of Nigeria that you can easily administer the north, because the northern system was more of it was based on a system of on a system whereby the king or the emir will say something and all the subjects will just follow suit. It was different in the south, so they didn't need to do much in the north. So all they did was to liaise through the leaders in the north, particularly the emir and all his subordinates. They pass the information to the people, and the people fall in line, they acquiesce. It was different from what you had in the south. In the south, the people in the south were much more, recalcitrant, stubborn, if you like. They won't listen to to whatever the British were saying. So the British required more personnel to work in the south, and the south had less population and had less land. So they required more personnel, particularly in the what you call the southeastern part of Nigeria today, which used to be the eastern part, because the system you had there was acephalous, and the people there are very, very obstinate and stubborn, and you can still see it happening today. They don't want to be ruled by anybody in the center. And in the Yoruba lands, you had the history of the Yoruba land. You have, for instance, the old Oyo Empire was much more of a quasi-republican system. So the point here is that Nigeria, if you look at the different entities called Nigeria today, the different entities which formed to make Nigeria today, the British played a role in lumping together these groups that have never accepted each other, that have never liked each other. And this is why we have found ourselves in this position today. To add on top of that, Islam came from the north and Christianity came from the south. These two religions are alien to Nigeria. They are alien to Nigeria. This is not a practice. If you go back 200 years, most Nigerians, as it is today, they're like, these are not our practices. The Hausas have their religious practices in the north. The people in the south have their religious practices. Shango, Olodum, like whatever God you worship. But the Arabs brought Islam from the north, and the Europeans brought Christianity from the south, and this is how we have found ourselves here today. Again, man, this is not fair. Let's start and check, guys. I'll be done. I hope it doesn't go off again. We love sound. Thank you so much. Let's go. Let's go. Okay, I'm back. Yeah, sorry. Welcome to Nigeria. You know, the power keeps going up. There's no announcement. There's no, it just goes up. Nothing. And it goes up multiple times a day. You know, it's one of the major problems we're having in Nigeria, coupled with the economic issues, insecurity. So this is part of the problem. So this is how you find out you are in Nigeria without anybody asking. And yeah, so basically this is how the whole layer and the structure of Nigeria was created by the British. To go furthermore, after independence, the history of military coup, the Biafran War or the Nigerian Civil War in 1967 did not really help issues, because when the first coup happened in January 1966, most of the people that carried out the coup were of the southeastern extraction. So the North suspected that the South, you call it Southeast today, it used to be the Eastern region. So the North suspected that the Easterners wanted to take power, and they carried out their own counter coup in 1966. By the way, don't even forget that after the January coup, which was led by Chukuma, Kaduna Unzegu, and a host of other officers, you know, like I said, mostly if you look at them, they call them the five majors. I think 3 or 4 of them were from the what you call the Eastern region at that time. You know, one of them is from Delta, but all those places used to be part of the Eastern region at that time. And I think one of them, Adim Moyenka, also is from Kogi State. So these are the people that carried out the coup. So the North suspected that the East wanted to take power and decided to follow on the counter coup that happened in July or so the same year. So within 6 months or thereabouts of the first coup, you had the second coup, which was the counter coup that brought in Yakubu Gowon. And the East was not satisfied with that as well and started pressing, you know, to have to secede from Nigeria. And that was what led to the war that lasted for over 2 years, from 1967 or thereabout to 1970. And the bloody barbaric war, it went on. I think 2 or 3 million people lost their lives or died as a result of that conflict. So the bad blood is still there. So the Northerners are always suspecting those from the South. They are always suspecting those from the North. And it has been coup after coup. But since 1999, the Fourth Republic, we have had steady democracy, more or less, what you call democracy. But from the period of around 2010 and 11, we've been having this insurgency happening in the northeastern part of Nigeria. When it started earlier on, a lot of people thought, oh, it's the Muslims attacking the Christians. And then the Boko Haram guys started attacking mosques. They started going to markets. They started going to religious places of worship and attacking people indiscriminately. All of this has been going on. The US have not done anything. The US did not see anything. In fact, during the Jonathan period, Jonathan being the president of Nigeria at that time, because he was seeking re-election, he went and brought in mercenaries from South Africa. Okay, and those mercenaries were, you know, dealing with the Boko Haram and dealing with them decisively in the lead up to the election, and they made enormous progress and took back territory that Boko Haram have seized from the Nigerian army. And what happened? Immediately after General Buhari won the election, there were reports that instructions came from the United States of America to stop the operation, to stop those mercenaries from attacking those terrorists. Why? Because they believe we are violating the human rights of those groups. And then you have the role of NGOs as well that are constantly taking supplies to these places. Even the US Congress testified that some of the NGOs, through USAID, have been supporting terrorists and terroristic activities in the northeastern part of Nigeria. So that is one element to it. The other part of it is in the northwest, which we are seeing activities from groups like Lukarawa and other groups tormenting Nigeria today in that part of the country. Where are these groups coming from? You know, and what is the incentive? What we have discovered as well is that in those areas in the north, it is not just about, oh, the love for, you know, jihadists and whatever. or because they want to die and have 67 virgin when they go to heaven. That is not the point. Resources. In the northeastern part of Nigeria, in the northwestern part of Nigeria, you have resources. You have lithium, you have gold, columbite, tin, precious minerals, some of them used for defense industries. So this is why the exploitation is happening in the northeast and in the northwestern part of Nigeria. And some of these criminal elements that are mining these resources are using religion as a recruiting sergeant. It is very important to note this, that they are using religion as a recruiting sergeant to get people on board to join them in their nefarious activities. And most of the resources they are taking, or some of these minerals that they are mining, is ending up in the coffers of the West. And now you have countries like the United Arab Emirates also participating in the looting of Nigeria. Because the gold that is living, if you remember, I think it was during the last administration, certain individuals were blacklisted in the UAE or in Nigeria for participating in illegal activities. Little did I know that these are the people that are also bleeding us. The Arab Gulf countries, particularly the United Arab Emirates. At least they are making changes in Saudi Arabia now because the ideology used to come from there. This Salafist ideology used to come from Saudi Arabia. They used to fund mosques and religious homes in Nigeria based on the charity and so on and so forth. They fund some of these institutions that are radicalizing the youth and young people based on this Wahhabi ideology coming from Saudi Arabia. But the recent government there, I think, is making some alterations now to stop some of this funding to the so-called charities, across the Sahel and also in some parts of West Africa, even Senegal, Niger. Let's not forget the destruction of Libya as well did not help. Why is this activities of Boko Haram, Lukarawa, Janim, Mujao, Al-Moghabitun, Islamic State in the Greater Sahara, and some of these radical groups burgeoning and gaining momentum in Nigeria, in Chad, in Cameroon, in Niger, in Burkina Faso, in Mali, and all these places in the Sahel, all the way to the coast of West Africa. The destruction of Libya, flooded Libya with arms, removed the government of Gaddafi. So the whole Sahelian belt have been left vulnerable as a result of the destruction of Libya. Don't forget that this is also affecting countries like Sudan. It's the destruction of Libya. And who destroyed Libya to allow some of these groups to roam freely in and out? It is not Nigeria that destroyed Libya. It is France and America and Britain and all their cohorts that come and cause destruction, remove the government, denude the country of any sort of monopoly of violence, proliferate arms in the region, and then blame the government for allowing this to happen. That is one aspect of it. And also you have this old primordial fight between the nomadic people and the sedentary African farmers. For instance, that is happening in the southeast. The southeast is in proximity to the north central. So why are the Fulanas always going to these places in the north central and the southeast? Because of grazing. You also need to remember that some of them are moving along the banks of the River Niger and Benue. So they are constantly moving from north to south, from south to north. These are seasonal transformers that are constantly moving and seeking greener pastures for their livestock. And this is not a justification for what is happening, but what I'm explaining to you is that there are different ways to look at it, and there are different driving factors. There are different factors that is driving this conflict and insecurity in Nigeria. So, and some of it is taking the connotation, it's looking like there's religious violence, or it's wearing the clothes of Christians fighting against Muslims and Muslims fighting against Christians. But the reality is that there are radical, jihadists that are roaming across the Sahel, which we know of, and most of them claim to be radical, but are using religion as a recruiting sergeant to do their bidding, which is the extraction of resources, and they continue to do so today. These guys now have drones. These guys are now giving the Nigerian army a run for their money. Who is supplying them with these drones in the northeastern part of Nigeria to attack the Nigerian army and attack the Nigerian government? Who is giving them the drones? Where are they getting the drones from? So there's some sort of international conspiracy behind it. on one hand, and the bad blood between the Igbos in the southeast and the Hausas in the north is not helping issues. So anytime there's clash between the two communities, particularly the Fulanis moving to the southeast, the Igbos automatically perceive that these are the Muslims killing the Christians. And the Hausas immediately perceive that the Christians are going against the Muslims, or the Fulanis, whichever case it is, because these two communities, the Hausa Fulani communities, are always moving hand in hand and shoulder to shoulder. And if you look within the north as well, all is not rosy. The different communities, they are also the Kanuris, the Fulanis, they're all fighting each other as well. If you go to a place like Castina, you have radicals there, Bello Turuji, Ado Haliru, Dan Keremi. Some of these guys, Fulani guys, are also tormenting Hausa communities, going to their farms and pushing them out. So you have to understand the nuances. It is not all, because people love to simplify things. Simplicity is dangerous. The fact that they love to simplify things, it makes it easier if you simplify it. It looks like it is the Muslims all going out to wipe out the Christians, and the Muslims have the same suspicion as well. This conflict in the Northeast has taken far more lives of Muslims than Christians. But there are also religious violence and targeted killings against Christians in the North. Let's not countenance that and act as if it's not happening. But that is not the bigger picture. But when it comes to the loss of lives, bigger picture is not important. Induction becomes the line of reasoning, becomes the line of thought. People now argue from the minor premise to the major premise. For instance, what is happening in Plateau State? If you look at the history of what is happening in Plateau State, it's a fight over land. It has been a fight over resources, particularly land and the migration of mostly the Hausa community and the Fulani communities into Plateau State and Taraba State, and to some part of Benue State. But the Hausas, the Fulanis are Muslims, and those Birom, Angas, Lantan communities are Christians. So that when they are fighting each other, it looks like it's Christians and Muslims fighting each other, but what is the underlying factor why this fight is happening? It is resources, and it is land, and it's fight over ancestral and historical lands in Plateau State. In Benue State, it is grazing rights and also the fight against these two communities. Remember, Othman Danfodio tried to push the jihad and to expand his caliphate towards the Tiv land in Benue State, and they resisted him. So this has been a long history with the Fulanis and jihad, and so of course there is some element of religious violence to it, but that is not the bigger picture. So when people in New York and in Washington decide to sanction Nigeria and even go further to say that they are coming to bomb us in order to save Christians like myself, I begin to wonder whether they really care. The claim is that they are coming to Nigeria to save people like me. They want to save Christians like myself. We have to be very careful what we wish for, because at the end of the day, the US is not coming to save Christians or to save Muslims. The US is coming to Nigeria to bomb, to pillage, to invade, and to loot. Give me the history of any country in the world that America has intervened to save or for benign reasons, for humanitarian reasons. It has always been about resources. Liberia, Sierra Leone, diamond and gold they are taking. They are still there today and have refused to leave. Look at the presence of America in Haiti. Since the early 1900s, they have been bombing and pillaging and destroying Haiti, with gang violence happening on the streets of Haiti today. Haiti is closer to America, and the US have been there since the 1920s. So if they are not able to resolve the situation in Haiti since 1920, backing one dictator after another, Duvaliers, the son and the father, Baba Doc and Baby Doc Duvalier, Papa Doc and Baby Doc Duvalier, intervened to remove John Bertrand Aristide, kicked out Leslie Francois Manigat, El Salvador, Nicaragua, These are very small countries compared to Nigeria. Nigeria is a country of over 230 or 40 million people. So for those of you jubilating and clapping and dancing in the church and in the mosque that the US is coming to save you, be careful what you wish for. Be careful what you wish for. The US will come like a thief in the night to loot, to destroy, to pillage, and leave no crumbs. The population of Lagos alone is almost the same as the population of Benin Republic and Togo. Imagine people from Lagos moving into these countries and what will happen to the whole of West Africa. The goal of the West is to destroy. From one conflict, as they are ending one conflict, they need to go to another one. Why? Because the military industrial, what is the largest, US does not really export pencils and what is the largest export commodity of America? Technology, military hardware. This is where they are making their money. So you're asking peace to reign in the world. You're asking for peace to reign. You're bringing the thief to be the security of your house. What on earth are we thinking? What sort of emotion is running through our veins, thinking that the US will come to this country to save us? And people are dancing in the church. Be careful what you wish for. The lack of education, the stupidity and dumbness of people like myself and all these other Nigerians hoping and praying I can come and save you. Be careful what you wish for. It's on this basis that I intend to travel across the length and breadth of Nigeria for 2 months. Starting shortly in 2 or 3 days. I'll be traveling to these various communities affected. So for those of you that are interested, go and subscribe to my YouTube page, The African Hawk. The link is on my bio as well. Go and check it out. Go and subscribe to my YouTube. Follow me on Facebook as well. Go right now to my YouTube. It's spelled The African Hawk put together. Search it and you see it. Go and give me a follow there. And I'm going to document my travels in the northern part of Nigeria. I'll be visiting these communities that have been affected in Plateau State, starting from Borno State. And Adam, I will be traveling across the length and breadth of the country, reaching out to people, doing interviews. And the intention is to come out with a robust and comprehensive documentary with my findings. So for those of you that are interested, go and follow me on YouTube. The link is on my bio. Go to the link tree there. And if you also want to support the cause and support my travels and support whatever I'm doing in respect to my advocacy about the social and economic problems in Nigeria and in Africa in general, go to the link on my bio. There's a buy me a coffee link there. And some of the videos as well, I'll post it on my Patreon. Just go to the link tree on my bio to follow. So like I said, they are trying to paint what is happening as a religious war in order to have a justification to come to Nigeria so that they can have access to what we have. Let's not forget, America was kicked out of the Sahel. Niger kicked them out. Burkina Faso kicked out the French and the Americans, and so did Mali. So these guys want to come back to West Africa. They want to have an access. And don't forget that this is also an energy war, because when Niger kicked out the Americans, they decided to stop the Trans-Saharan pipeline that's supposed to supply gas from the southern part of Nigeria. And this is not a deal that involves us. So American companies are looking for a way to get the US to bomb Nigeria in order to put those pipelines in place to also intervene in Niger, probably. This is what they are planning. It's a grand game, because they have invested a lot of money in building this pipeline, and then the military coup in Niger sabotaged it. And what is the benefit? What would Nigeria benefit from them stealing our gas and oil and sending it across to Europe as an alternative to the energy that Russia is providing? Nigeria is sitting on trillions of cubics of natural gas, or whatever unit of measurement you want to use, of natural gas untapped. We are sitting on the Gulf of Guinea. Everything is flowing down to the Gulf of Guinea. So Nigeria is blessed with abundance of resources. And this is what these guys want from us. They want to destroy, they want to pillage, they want to loot. For those of you celebrating that the US is coming to save you, be careful what you wish for. Careful what you wish for. Now look at what the Associated Press is saying. Trump threatens Nigeria with potential military action, escalates claim of Christian persecution. Now, according to the US President Donald Trump on Saturday, he said he has ordered the Pentagon to begin planning for potential military action in Nigeria as he stepped up his allegations that the government is failing to rein in the persecution of Christians in the West African country. The president also warned that he will immediately stop all aid and assistance to Nigeria. If the Nigerian government continues to allow the killing of Christians, the USA will immediately stop all aid assistance to Nigeria and may very well go into that now disgraced country, guns blazing, to completely wipe out the Islamic terrorists who are committing these horrible atrocities. Trump posted on social media, I am hereby instructing our Department of War to prepare for a possible action. If we attack, it will be fast, vicious, and sweet, just like the terrorist thugs attack our cherished Christians. The warning came after Nigerian President Bola Ahmed Tinubu earlier on Saturday pushed back on Trump's announcing a day earlier that he was designating the West African country a particular concern for allegedly failing to rein in the persecution of Christians. In social media statement on Saturday, Tinubu said that the characterization of Nigeria as a religiously intolerant country does not reflect the national reality. And that is a fact. Think about it. Do you think the Nigerian president is a religious bigot? Absolutely not. The wife of the Nigerian president is a pastor. Pastor in one of the biggest evangelical churches in Nigeria. He himself is a Muslim. But the first lady of Nigeria is a pastor of an evangelical church. Now, I think last week they did a cabinet, they did a security team reshuffle. So the security team of the president of Nigeria, the chief of defense staff, before 5 or 10 days ago, the chief of defense staff was a Christian, the chief of army staff Christian, chief of naval staff Christian, chief of air force staff Christian, chief of defense intelligence Christian. All of them Christians. So how is it possible for the US government to accuse this present government of being religiously targeting minorities, if you like? The Christians are not minorities in Nigeria. The Christians in Nigeria make up over 48% of the population. That is about half of the country. Yeah, but let's not sit down here and pretend that there's no targeting of Christians in Nigeria. I see that. It is happening in different areas and in different pockets. But on the whole, most Nigerians are very tolerant. You have radicals in Nigeria, you have terrorists in Nigeria, you have extremists in Nigeria, and I agree with the US president that yes, there are pockets of Islamic radicals and terrorists operating in different areas in the northern part of Nigeria. But the idea of coming to bomb Nigeria is what I don't agree with. Let's be careful what we wish for. And again, this is a message for some Nigerians that are praying and hoping that this happens because they have a problem with the government and, hoping that when the US come and bomb Nigeria, that everything is going to be okay. Everything is going to be fine. We have to be very careful what we wish for. Careful what you wish for. If the US is really interested in African progress, why are they still bombing? Why do you have military bases in Africa? Why are you still tapping into cheap resources by flooding Africa with weapons in order for you to take diamond and gold and other rare earth minerals and resources? Look at the situation in Sudan. Look at the situation in Sudan directly caused by the UAE. America is giving the UAE arms to kill black Africans, supporting the Arabized tribes to go after Africans, like the Masalit, the Zagawa, and the Ford tribe in Darfur. Simply means the land of the Ford, the western part of Sudan. Not just in Darfur, but also in Kordofan and the Blue Nile. They are targeting minorities in these places. And the US is okay with that because the UAE, lobbying the leadership in the US, Trump can build his towers in Dubai and Sharjah and Fujairah and Abu Dhabi and the US president visited the Gulf region, I think about 2, 3, or 4 months ago, whatever, and got promises and pledges and contracts worth trillions of dollars. So he's not going to say anything about them. And the people that they are supporting, the Janjaweed, are terrorists. But I don't see him attempting to bomb Sudan to bring about peace there, but wants to bomb Nigeria. Let's be careful. We need to watch what we are wishing for. It is a selective morality that I'm against. The fact that they're only interested in coming to Africa to bomb, to pillage. For instance, the Nigerian government doesn't have money to give him and his people to build the Trump Towers. They don't have the money to give him. So Nigeria is dispensable. These guys are coming to Nigeria without knowing the capital of Nigeria. If you ask Trump how many states there are in Nigeria, he has no knowledge of the geography, of the demography, but he's locked up and loaded to attack Nigeria without knowing anything about the configuration, the demographic configuration of Nigeria. It's exactly the same thing these guys did when they went to Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, Syria, what they did in Haiti, Nicaragua, El Salvador. And in some countries, they remove elected leaders and bring in dictators, like they did in Chile. Augusto Pinochet, they brought him to power and removed Salvador Allende. Democratically elected. They said he was socialist. They didn't like his face. They're doing the same thing in Venezuela. The US wants to go to Venezuela to do exactly the same thing. And we are here clapping and dancing and jubilating that the US is coming to save us. Coming to save who? From what? Let's be guided. Careful what we wish for.